Anybody else? Muy bien, bienvenidos, bienvenidas a todos. Estamos aquí juntos y hola Tomás, que no está aquí esta noche, pero espero que lo veamos la próxima semana. We will hope we see him next week. Fantástico. Vamos a empezar, vamos a practicar con por y para. Vamos a tomar preguntas de los videos. How many of you watched the second episode of the tiempo entre costuras? ¿Sí?
Yeah.
Yeah. Did anybody watch the destinos as well or no?
Oh, we watched it.
Yeah.
I watched both.
Okay. Destinos has little questions at the end.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't really have questions made up for, well, I do, but they're really kind of not necessary because at the end of that episode, they always they always put the questions out towards the end of the episode to see that you understood what was going on, listening comprehension. So I don't really have significant things to, quiz people on that. And I didn't know how many people would watch it. But, we may take a little bit of time for el tiempo entre costuras. And then, por y para. So, por y para, vamos a empezar. We're going to start with our por y para a little bit here. Vamos a empezar. We have this idea of por y para as the destination. We're thinking of por y para as the two separate things like purpose or destination. And oh goodness, shame on me. I thought I had my slides up, but I do not. Tengo que buscar todo. Ahí. ¿Dónde está? Aquí está. Here it is. Voy a compartir. I will share this first. We're going to take a look at this first for a little bit. Before we watch a little video, there are some phrases with por and para, especially with por, where you just kind of have to know. We use these ideas for por. This idea of applying things as, kind of an easy 50-50 rule doesn't work for some of the expressions. So we'll have a little video on that after we take a look at this again. Como un repaso, as a review, okay? Como un repaso. That general idea of para, it often indicates a destination, a goal, something you're working towards. It points out what's coming next, okay? When para joins an idea that comes first in the sentence, an idea that comes later, whatever idea comes after para generally is something that happens afterwards. But afterwards, by that I mean it will happen in the future. Whatever is happening in the first half of the sentence is going on. And whatever happens after para is coming up, will happen, okay, is where we're getting to as our destination. Okay, and our examples, and I've got a 1 and a 2 because the 1 is going to indicate something that happens first, and you're going to see that whatever comes afterwards is a follow-up or a going into the future connected to that first idea. El regalo que compré, the gift that I bought, el regalo que compré es para mis hijos. Para mis hijos, for my kids, they're getting the gift, so I have to buy it first for the kids to get it in the future, right? It's an easy way to kind of say, well, this is going to be obviously para and not por. Because the kids are the follow-up, they get the gift after I do the buying. Practico mi español para hablar mejor. Para hablar mejor, I practice my Spanish in order to speak better. That goal of speaking better is what comes up in the future once I do the practico, 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 practico. Okay? Hago la tarea para miércoles. I'm doing the homework for Wednesday. That means I'm doing homework now. It's not due today. Well, today is Wednesday, but it's not due right this minute. It will be due. Okay, so what's after para is what's coming up in the future. It's a deadline, okay? We're working towards miércoles. El avión sale para Los Ángeles, okay? The plane leaves for Los Angeles. El avión sale, it leaves, and there's got to be some place it's going to, an endpoint, a place where it's going to land. So where it's going to land and finish after sale. What comes after para is Los Angeles, your destination. Or vamos para el parque, maybe less dramatic than a flight. Vamos para el parque, we're going, it looks like we're going for the park, but it doesn't mean that. It means we're going to the park. We're going to wind up at the park. Okay, in English we might express that more as we're going to wind up there, meaning that's my end point, okay? Vamos, we're going, we're going. When we finish our activity of taking a walk, this is where we end up. Okay, so parque tells future where we'll wind up. Okay, and of course the rules I'm not just all going to read to you, but you know, para cannot mean more than just for. It can mean for, can indicate a recipient. It can indicate a geographical. A region or a place, a location where you will end up. It can indicate in order to do something. So it can indicate comparisons. You know, the whole thing of saying para mí, to express your opinion, very much uses that idea of para, okay? Whereas por is a less definite, not an endpoint kind of thing. If you've got por in the middle of a sentence, activity going on, something else after the word por, they're probably happening kind of simultaneously or often. We're going to say often because nothing is ever 100%. They're often happening at the same time, okay? Bien, y vamos a practicar un poquito aquí. We're going to take a look. Por ejemplo, puedes ver la calle por la ventana. You can see the street through the window. And por ver, when you say puedes ver la calle, you can see the street. Whatever comes after the word por, it's happening at the same time. Por la ventana does not mean for the window. Por there tells you through the window. Okay? Caminamos por la playa. We're walking not to the end destination of the beach, but por tells you we're walking along or through. Okay? So por has that kind of meandering feel. It doesn't say we're going to be at the beach and boom, we're sitting down here. We're saying we're walking along. Okay? And therefore definitely does not mean for at all. El letrero, y letrero es sign. El letrero está escrito por el dueño de la tienda. The sign is written by the owner of the store. Okay. So,
Marilyn,
sí, dime.
can I ask you a question about the previous page where it said,
Sí.
vamos, I forget what it is now. Not the, vamos a la park, to the park. We're going to the park.
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry.
Sí.
Could you say vamos por el parque if you were like walking through the park?
Yes. Okay, Susana, qué buena pregunta. What a good question. Okay, and me alegro muchísimo. I'm really glad that you asked that question because in that instance, Both are grammatically correct, but they convey a different idea.
Okay.
So it changes the meaning of the idea you want to get across. Vamos para el parque, you're telling people I will wind up at that place known as el parque. That I mean to go there and I'm spending time there. I'm sitting down, maybe eating lunch, maybe going to a concert, maybe the kids are playing, but that's where I'm gonna wind up. You know, para says, I'm gonna wind up there, my endpoint is there. Vamos por el parque is telling people that I'm going on a route and here is, we're cruising through this area. Rather than I'm stopping there, we're going by there or along there and not necessarily stopping. It's not a destination. We're in transit. And that might be a big defining area so that you know where we're going. Oh, we're going through the park. So you can literally use either one, but it changes the meaning.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Es buena pregunta. That's a really super good question. That does not mean that you can always interchangeably switch por and para. Not always. But sometimes you can, and it changes the situation. Okay. Let's take a look at a little bit more with por. Por has a lot more rules, okay? But remember, things going out at the same time. Not one thing happening as an endpoint or a result or happening in the future when we finish up with this first activity. Okay, pagué $25 por la comida. I paid $25 for the food. Por in this case does, well, we could translate it as for. I paid $25 for the food, we could. But what it means is in exchange for. So it's happening simultaneously. I give you the money, right away you give me the food. Por in this case means in exchange for. I do one thing, I get something back immediately because it's an even Steven setup, okay? Mi amigo llamó por teléfono. My friend called, not for the phone, but by the phone. Meaning, he didn't yell down the street. He didn't use Skype, he didn't use FaceTime, didn't use Signal, didn't use WhatsApp, didn't use email. Me llamó por teléfono. Called me on the phone. So por here is by means of or via a certain means of communication. Okay. Y pasamos por la ciudad. Esto, Susana, this one, Susana, is the same thing. Pasamos por la ciudad. And pasamos almost always uses por, by the way. Pasamos does not use para. Because pasamos is saying we're passing through. Okay? Where salir is just leave, and pasamos is pass or go along. So pasamos always uses por. Pasamos por la ciudad, we're passing through the city. We're not necessarily stopping in the city. This is our route. Bien? Through. So por in particular has many more meanings or translations than for. It's not accurate to say that por just means for, because only sometimes does it mean for. Yeah, okay. And you've got the rules there, so I'm not going to read those at you. We are going to come back to some of these examples. This is a good kind of 50-50 rule to give you a feel for por and para rather than having to memorize a lot of stuff. Although, and para mí, for me, comparison, para mí, es importante saber por indica through, by, via. It always helped me a lot to know that por has way more than for as a definition. So, you know, for me, that was always helpful to know that por translates into a lot of other words, not just for. I do want to show you a little video because this video, este video, momentito, I gotta switch my screens. This video, these little rules for por and para, there are some things, some expressions that just use por and don't have a real good reason. Because of course, you know, it would be too easy if we, if we had a reason. No, that would make things logical and wonderful, and we don't always. So I'm going to play this because he goes through a lot of expressions. You don't need to write them all down, and a lot of these, when you hear them, you're going to say, "Oh, I already knew that," because you hear these tidbits thrown out a lot. You hear people say these ideas a lot. So these are the kinds of phrases that you almost have to get a feel for from just hearing people use them a great deal. But they may not have, in every case, a definite reason, like the reasons we looked at. So we're going to play this because it really does help. Okay, see, at least I think it will help. And then we're going to take a look at some of them, and then we'll go through the little homework things. Okay, a ver. Share, 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 turn on my sound. Aquí vamos, here we go.
Soy Tommy, and today we will learn about those wonderful Spanish prepositions por and para. Ay, ay, ay. But you already made a video about that. 2 videos actually, one in English and one in Spanish. Well, 3. It became the German version on my other YouTube channel. And you can watch those next if you need a more in-depth explanation on how to use the prepositions por and para in Spanish. And what about right now? I will make it easy for you because I will teach you over 25 Spanish expressions to use with either por or para. And that's a good start to stop confusing these two prepositions when you're speaking Spanish. For example, por ejemplo. Very good. Let's start with por. Por favor. And we also have por lo menos, at least. Por lo menos ayúdame con mi español. Por lo menos ayúdame con mi español. Eso estoy haciendo. Gracias por ayudarme. Gracias por. Thank you for. Gracias por ayudarme. And why not gracias para? Por means because of. And when we're grateful, we are grateful because of something. That's why gracias por. Thank you for. Gracias por ayudarme. Por suerte, tú me ayudas. Por suerte, luckily. When you're trying to show the way to someone, you can always say por aquí, this way, por ahí, por allí, por allá, that way. What other expressions can we use with por in Spanish? Por ahora, for now. Por casualidad, by chance. Por eso, that's why. Por qué means why. And por eso means that's why. And oh, by the way, por cierto means by the way. Por cierto, ¿dónde están los ejemplos con la preposición para? Pronto, soon. Por lo general, generally. Por Dios! For God's sake! Por si acaso means just in case. And por lo visto means apparently, aparentemente. Por lo visto no hay frases con para. Ahora, por fin, finally, para empezar, to begin, the question para qué means what for. ¿Para qué sirve esto? ¿Para qué sirve esto? Sirve para escribir. Sirve para escribir. Para variar, for a change, is another expression. Para siempre, forever. Here one can also say por siempre, right? Correcto! Now we have para nada, for nothing. Not at all. No sirves para nada. No sirves para nada. Hey! Sorry, that was only an example. No es para tanto. It's not so bad. No es para tanto can also mean it's not that good. Para terminar. Para terminar. Eso es todo por hoy. The whole list is below in the video description. Muchas gracias.
Okay. A ver. Bueno. Yeah. So he rams through those, but a lot of those, por favor, por ejemplo, por Dios, por Dios, oh my God, yeah, for God's sake. A lot more really had por than para, but a lot of those are expressions that are just things that people throw out all the time, and if you really wanted to analyze it, you could nail it down to a little reason, but it's good to just sort of know those by heart, really, or get super familiar with those as much as you can, because it's helpful to have those at your beck and call. Ok, a ver, y vamos a practicar. Vamos a practicar con algo con un ejemplo del video. We're going to practice with one example from this video. And ¿para qué sirve? ¿Sí? ¿Para qué sirve? ¿Para qué sirve means what is this thing for? And what you're really saying is, what purpose does it serve? Oh, yeah, because por and para do the thing with purpose, okay? We're gonna take a quick look at that again. This little chart before we start practicing that. Por versus para. Por, you're giving a reason. On account of, because of something. Para is a purpose, and that's what we're going to practice with our little props soon. Traveling. This is the question that Susana asked. When you say, vamos por la playa, we're going along the beach. This is the idea of, we can talk about locations and use either por or para, but por indicates through or along or around, whereas para indicates endpoint, that's where I wind up, that's where I finish off. We can use por and para in two cases to talk about time, but por talks about a duration of time, a chunk or a period of time. I studied for 5 hours. I worked there for 5 years. That's a duration of time. I can also talk about time with para, but if I talk about time with para, now I'm talking about a deadline, when something is due, when I need to hand it in, turn it in, give it over, have it finished for somebody to evaluate. So again, it's got that idea of the endpoint. A destination has more the idea of an endpoint. And we can use por with the idea of passive voice indicating that somebody is an agent, meaning somebody acted upon a thing. Okay, the example would be Romeo y Juliet fue escrito por Shakespeare. Romeo and Juliet was written by Shakespeare. Okay, that's passive voice. The play was written, the play didn't write, Shakespeare wrote. Passive voice means you're swapping the active voice for the passive voice. So Shakespeare did the writing, but we're just saying this thing was written by somebody. And when you say the by somebody, and you put that into passive voice, that's when we need por. Versus para with a human being, para indicates whatever you're baking, cooking, buying something for, it's going to wind up with that person. They are the recipient. Okay? Not the agent doing the action, they're receiving something. Recipient. And this is how we traditionally think of the idea of para as for, right? The birthday gift is for somebody. This money is for my friend. This paycheck is for the employee. Something of that nature. Yeah? Okay. So keep those general things in mind. And we're going to go back to the idea of para qué sirve, because very few exercises will practice that. So we're going to practice it with some prompts. Vamos a practicar con cositas aquí en la casa. No es muy difícil. Y voy a empezar. Voy a empezar con un tazón grande. Yo voy a decirles a ustedes para qué sirve. ¿Para qué sirve? ¿Para qué sirve el tazón o el bol? El bol, el tazón. ¿Para qué sirve? Oh, sirve para mezclar galletas. Sirve para servir comida chatarra, for serving junk food. El tazón sirve para servir. Its use is for serving food. Sirve para mezclar y hacer una receta. It serves for mixing and making a recipe. ¿Está bien? Sirve para muchas cosas. I'm telling what its purpose is when I use para. So I use para, sirve, para, and here it's para with a verb, but not para meaning in order to. Para meaning it serves the purpose of doing this activity. Bien, vale. Ok. Ahora ustedes van a ayudarme, ¿sí? Tengo aquí un... ¿Qué es esto? ¿Qué es esto? ¿Qué es esto? Momentito. ¿Qué es esto?
Un periódico.
Un periódico. Es un periódico. ¿Cómo se llama el periódico? ¿Cómo se llama?
El Times.
The Times, sí. Los tiempos. Los tiempos of Times de Fountain Hills. Ok. ¿Para qué sirve? ¿Para qué sirve un periódico? ¿Para qué sirve?
Para leer.
¿Sirve para leer? ¿Sirve para leer qué, Juanita? ¿Una novela? ¿Una historia de fantasía?
I don't know how to say the news.
Eso es.
Eso es.
¿Sirve para leer qué?
News stories.
Exacto.
News
¿Cómo se dice?
Stories they see you dodge Fountain Hills.
Ok. Artículo, información. Información sobre el pueblo de Fountain Hills. Sirve para, el periódico sirve para leer las noticias las noticias del pueblo, ¿sí? Sirve para saber cuándo cuando empiezan las clases en la escuela. Sirve para encontrar el lugar de votar. Sirve para saber qué. Un momentito, algo interesante. ¿Para quién murió? Who died? Sirve para saber quién murió. ¡Yay! Sirve para saber de donaciones a las organizaciones de padres, ¿sí? PTO es Parent Teacher Organization, ¿no? Sirve para saber noticias de las iglesias y servicios religiosos. ¿Bien? Ok. Pero, ¿entienden, no? ¿Entienden? ¿No? Ok. Vale, un momentito.
¿No fuego el tren?
¿Perdón?
¿No fuego el tren en Tempe?
Fuego. ¿En Tempe?
Fuego el tren en Tempe.
Oh, sí.
No, not in the noticios in the Fountain Hills.
No, sí, son noticias de Fountain Hills. ¿Había algo de Tempe? ¿Ustedes sabían de Tempe? ¿Sí o no? No.
El fuego en el tren.
No. Aquí, en este periódico. No.
Periódico viejo.
Quizás. Ok. Bueno, sí. ¿Qué es esto? ¿Qué es esto?
Oh.
¿Qué es esto? Oh, con mi tarjeta de Ashes. ¿Qué es esto?
Cartera, but
Es una cartera o billetera. Se dice billetera, se dice cartera. Son dos palabras, son iguales. ¿Bien? Ok. ¿Para qué sirve? ¿Para qué sirve una cartera? ¿Para qué sirve una cartera?
Tarjeta de crédito.
Para guardar, keep, para guardar las tarjetas de crédito. Bien, sí. ¿Qué más?
Tiene infectivo. Tiene infectivo.
Para guardar, to keep, para guardar el dinero en efectivo, bien. Para guardar quizás monedas. Monedas aquí. Moneda. 5 centavos. No es mucho. $1. $1 de Susana, de Anthony. Bien. Ok. Sirve para guardar el dinero. Sirve para guardar las tarjetas de crédito. Sirve para guardar la licencia.
Sí.
¿Verdad? Para guardar la licencia. Entonces, información, dinero, todo eso. Ok. Otra cosa. Bien. Un momentito. 1, 2, 3. Un momentito. Oh. Bien. Necesito brazos muy largos. ¿Dónde está mi cosita? Oh, está aquí. Está por aquí. Está por aquí. It's around here. Está por aquí. Está por aquí. ¿Qué es esto? Es un producto. La marca es Beekman's. No es importante. La marca, the brand, no es importante. ¿Qué es? Es jabón. Es jabón, ¿verdad? ¿Para qué sirve el jabón?
Para
Lavar.
lavar.
Para lavar. ¿Para lavar qué? ¿Para lavar los platos?
No,
Um,
no, para las
lavarse-
mascatas.
Lavarse las manos.
Para
Las manos.
lavarse las manos. Para lavarse las manos. Para lavarse
La cara.
la cara. Para bañarse. Quizás, bien. Ok.
So,
Bueno, otra cosa. Es un disco CD. Un disco CD, sí.
Steely Dan.
¡Ah, Steely Dan! ¡Ah, de mis años del colegio! Miren, miren. ¿Para qué sirve un disco de CD? ¿Para qué sirve?
Para la música.
We need more than para. Necesitamos un verbo. We need a verb.
Escuchar.
Para escuchar música. Sirve para escuchar música. Claro, ¿no? Ok, bien. Bueno.
Sucio nombre.
Sí. Ok. ¿Y qué es esto?
Un cabello de dientes.
Cepillo.
Cepillo.
Es un cepillo de dientes. Es un cepillo de dientes. ¿Para qué sirve el cepillo de dientes?
Es para cepillo de los dientes.
Para cepillar, pero cepillar dientes no es como cepillar
no,
el pelo.
no.
Para, sí, ¿para qué? Para
Los dientes.
Cepillarse de dentista.
Para lavarse los dientes, para limpiar los dientes, para lavarse los dientes. Perfecto. Ok. Vale. Oh, esto pesa mucho. This weighs a lot. Oh,
Oh, yes.
ay, 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 ay. Por Dios, por Dios. Pesa muchísimo. Puedo usar esto para así levantar pesas. I can use this to lift weights. ¡Qué magnífico! ¿Para qué sirve? ¿Para qué sirve?
Libro importante.
Sí, es gigante. ¿Sirve para qué?
Para aprender español.
¿Para aprender español? Bien, ¿qué más? ¿Cómo se dice look for?
Mira,
Buscar.
Buscar
¿Para buscar qué?
las palabras.
Para buscar palabras en español. Para buscar expresiones en español. Claro, sí. Sirve para traducir palabras de inglés al español. Claro. Bien. Ay, Dios mío, pesa muchísimo. Ok. Sirve para desarrollar los músculos. Bien, sí. Ok. Bien. Esto será más difícil. ¡Oh! ¿Saben qué es?
oh,
Oh,
la,
un,
la ca-
un caja de gatos.
Una caja para llevarlos. ¿Para qué sirve? ¿Para qué sirve? Es un saco enorme, ¿no? Es un bolso enorme. Es un bolso enorme para mis gatos. ¿Para qué sirve? ¿Para qué sirve?
Para transportar.
Para transportar. Hay una palabra más fácil que transportar. There's a word even easier than transportar. Para llevar.
Llevar.
Llevar es transportar. Llevar quiere decir, de verdad, quiere decir transportar. To move something from one place to another is llevar, meaning you carry it or take it. para tomar los gatos ¿a quién? ¿A quién? Al veterinario, ¿no? Al veterinario. Para llevar los gatos o los perros al veterinario, ¿verdad? ¿Bien? Bien, perfecto. Ok. ¿Para qué sirve? ¿Para qué sirve? Es para, I mean, not in order to, but it serves the purpose of. And, you know, that's a great thing. If you're souvenir hunting and you're not really sure what something is for, it could be a good question to, haven't you ever come across that? You think this thing looks really interesting, but I don't know
What the heck is it?
Para qué sirve? What is this for? Yeah. And notice in the video, he used it in a kind of not so complimentary way too. No sirves para nada. Wow, you don't serve any purpose.
Yeah.
Like a good for nothing, yeah. Okay. Está bien. Fantástico. Okay. Vamos a ver. We're going to take a look at our slides first. See if you guys for that momentito, I'm going to pull my slides up here so we can take a look, and we're going to then look at the fill in the blanks. Excelente, excelente. Sí, más reglas. Okay, that idea of expressing duration of time. Carlitos estudió por 3 horas, right? Para 3 hours is not a deadline. It's the duration, the chunk or period of time, right? Por indicates a chunk or a period of time. Carlitos estudió por 3 horas. He studied for 3 hours. Also, a little tidbit. Por can be used for talking about frequency or speed, like as we would use the idea of per hour, per day, per week, right? Our word per comes from the same thing that por comes from in Latin. It comes from the same word. That's why. El loco manejó a 70 millas por hora. The crazy guy drove at 70 miles per hour. Or we might say 70 miles an hour, but 70 miles per hour in la plaza, in the plaza, in the square, right? Tomo mi medicamento 3 veces por día. I take my medications 3 times a day, 3 times per day. So those are not deadlines, you know, they're chunks, or in that one case, it's a velocity, right? Por hora. Bien. Okay. And here are some of our little ideas that you should just get to know. These use por, right? The por ejemplo, por cierto, por favor, por supuesto, of course, por lo visto, apparently, por Dios, oh my God. Yeah. Por eso. Por eso is like therefore. It literally means for that reason, but we would say therefore, right? Por fin. Fin, you know, is the end. So por fin is like finalmente, finally. Por el momento, for now, for the moment, right? Por todas partes means through all parts. It's their way of saying everywhere. Por todas partes quiere decir everywhere. I'm going to write that one in because that might not be super obvious. Quizás no es obvio. Everywhere. All over. That is what por todas partes means. And that kind of makes sense then because, yeah. Por todos lados, kind of next to it here is pretty similar. All sides are all over, right? Let's look at the top. Por allí or por allá or por aquí is indicating a general area. So not a destination, but just around here or around there. Por aquí, around here. Por allí, around over there. Por allá. Sometimes people use allá instead of allí. It's the same idea. Just Some regions like to use the word IG more. Some regions more, I'd say mainly South America, like to use allá more. Okay, it indicates distance that's not close by. Perdón. But por allí, por aquí, around over there in that general vicinity, por aquí, around here, general vicinity. Por casualidad, by chance. Yeah, by chance, by luck, by chance. Por lo menos, at least. For the least, por lo menos, at least. Okay. Perdón. Adivina, guess. Let's see if you can guess which one makes sense, or somebody's going to be interchangeable, or ¿qué piensan? What do you guys think? Leemos el texto
Para.
Para.
In order to.
para entender, in order to. Leemos el texto para aprender la biología. We read the text and we wouldn't say for to understand. We would say in order to, or just to understand. We shorten it a lot in English. We read the text to understand, but in order to make sense. If in order to make sense, para is what you need, para. Los turistas gave un paseo. Oh, dieron un paseo, that changes it to took a walk.
Could it be either por or para?
It probably could be either, but that would change the meaning. Para el lago would mean,
Around.
Around the lake.
well, no, para el
No.
lago would mean
Oh, para is
Two.
to.
endpoint. With dar un paseo, most people use that with por. Most people wouldn't use that because dar un paseo, taking a walk, indicates kind of a leisurely activity. Something that probably won't be rushed. Something that doesn't really have like, gee, we have a purpose of we want to wind up in a specific place. Just dar un paseo is take a stroll. Most of the time, dar un paseo will use por. But if you use para, somebody would say, oh, they want to end up there. Por el lago means by the lake, alongside it, right? Probably not walking through the lake because that's too wet. Okay. En Amazon vendieron los libros. In Amazon, they sold the books.
Por 15
Por. Por.
Por $15. If that's in exchange for. Okay. Por $15, it's got to be por, it cannot be para here because we're talking about I'm getting the books, and in order to get those books, I have to hand over right away $15, right? In exchange for. Estoy aquí
Para.
para ayudar. I am here to
Help.
help. I am here to help. That is my purpose, to do something for somebody else, right? To be of assistance. Estoy aquí para ayudar. Okay. But now if I change ayudar into ayuda, help, the thing, the noun that is help, and tu ayuda, your help, it becomes what? Gracias
Por tu ayuda.
por tu ayuda. This last por. Gracias por tu ayuda. Gracias por tu ayuda. Okay. I'm going to star these two because they use por the exact same reason. These two with asterisks use por for the exact same reason. Thanks in exchange for the fact that you gave me some help. And gracias por ayudar. Even though money is not changing hands, I give you thanks in return for the fact that you gave me assistance. Gracias por. Gracias always uses por with a noun. I could say gracias para. Well, gracias. No, gracias por tu ayuda. Thanks for your help, because It's in exchange for. It's got to be por. Okay? Bien. Preguntas? Any questions on these? Anything you missed and you don't know why? I mean, it's 50-50. You know what the right answer is if you didn't get it right. But el por qué, the why, right? Por qué is why, and para qué is for what purpose, right? Okay. Bien, estos ejemplos. Mis vecinos viajaron. My neighbors traveled.
Or
Por 2 semanas, por 2 semanas. Viajaron por 2 semanas. My neighbors traveled for 2 weeks. A chunk of time that was 4 weeks, a duration of time, right? Los juguetes, toys.
Para.
Para. You have to have para here. Who's receiving the toys?
The children.
The children, the kids, right? The toys are not there because of the kids. You could, in a sort of far-fetched way, say that you could put por in there, but then it would say, these toys are laying around here because of those kids who didn't put them away. And it really changes the meaning quite a lot. This is para, because you're intending that the kids get the toys, right? Okay, se casaron, they got married.
Por.
Amor is a noun, it's a thing.
Por.
Por. Se casaron por amor. They married for love. They married because of love. No se casaron por el dinero. Did not get married for money.
Or maybe.
Quizás. Pero aquí generalmente no. Se casaron por amor. They got married on account of love, right? Tenemos 3 clases.
Por.
Por.
Por semana, for the week.
Ooh.
Por.
Oh, duration.
I can see where you might, yeah, it really should be por semana, per week. Semana is a little too vague to be a deadline. I would have to say, if I changed this, fíjense, take a look. If I changed this by adding a phrase, momentito. No quiere cooperar. If I change this to la próxima semana, next week, tenemos 3 clases para la próxima semana, then maybe it would make sense to say para. We have 3 classes for next week, meaning they're going to wind up being that week, then maybe. But just with semana by itself, it's got to be por. Por semana, per week. I'm telling how often. I'm telling how often I have them. Tenemos 3 clases por semana, per week. Okay? So that was maybe a little bit hard. Y por fin, finally.
This one. Para.
Ágil es agile, nimble.
Say para.
Para viejo. Para viejo es muy ágil. For an old guy, he's very,
Good.
you might say spry, agile, nimble, right? Para viejo es muy ágil. Okay. Para is sometimes used when you're thinking like comparatively. So I might look, So I might look as at a little kid and say, Carlitos es muy alto para su edad. He's very tall for his age, meaning compared to other kids his age. No? So we use para sometimes to make comparisons. That's what that one is showing you. Puedo enviarle el cheque. I can send him or maybe send her the check.
Para.
Para.
Para mañana. ¿Por qué? Why?
Sequence.
The deadline.
Yeah, it's a deadline.
It's a deadline.
Deadline.
The check is in the mail. That infamous, the check is in the mail, right? Puedo enviarle el cheque. I can send the check. And now it's going to go through the mail. It's going to take time. It's going to wind up there on this day. Para mañana, ¿sí? Para mañana. Para mañana. Okay. Tomamos café.
Say pour.
Por.
Pour.
Por la mañana.
Por la mañana. And when you mean in this chunk, in the morning, in the afternoon, in the evening, it's por la mañana. It just is. When we say in the morning, in the afternoon, it's always por. That one, it's just, you have to get used to that, por la mañana. And when we tell time, we use that to say AM and PM.
Are you saying para or por? Por.
Por.
Por la mañana, por la mañana.
Por
The top one with mañana, tomorrow, is para mañana, for tomorrow, meaning a deadline. But la mañana, the morning. See, tomamos café por la mañana. We have our coffee. We have our coffee
in the morning.
See, comemos el desayuno por la mañana. Comemos la cena por la tarde. Tomamos un refresco por la tarde. We have a drink in the afternoon. Okay.
Excuse me, Marilyn, could you say en la mañana?
You can use en la mañana, and that is what your English side brain wants to say, en la mañana, because we say in the morning.
Right.
It is a little more, and people do say that. People will understand that. Por la mañana is, I would say, para mí, es un poquito más común. It's a little more common.
If you say mañana por la mañana, that's tomorrow morning.
Mañana por la mañana is tomorrow in the AM. And you can say mañana por la mañana. Mañana por la mañana, tomorrow in the morning. Eso es. Por la mañana, in the morning. Por la tarde, in the afternoon. Por la noche, at night. Así es. Okay. Y cuando hablamos de la hora, por ejemplo, son las 5 de la, well, there we use de la tarde, not por la tarde. Bien. But when we're doing activities, we use por la mañana. Tomamos café por la mañana, right? De la mañana is when we're telling our time. ¿Está bien? All those little days and pors and as are kind of hard to keep track of. A ver, ¿ok? ¿Bien? ¿Preguntas o no?
No.
¿Hay preguntas o no? ¿No? ¿No?
No.
Ok, vale. Momentito. A ver, bueno. Quiero hablar un poquito. I want to tell you a little bit about the. Whoa, ¿dónde está? Where'd my screen go? Está aquí. Está aquí. Quiero practicar un poquito. Quiero hablar un poquito de la película. ¿Sí? ¿Tienen preguntas, sí o no?
No. That's
No?
fine.
Okay. I will give you a little bit of homework, like one website to, or possibly two. I have to look at the duration, how long that is. 1 or 2 websites to let you practice that, to follow up on that a little more. through the week. Bien, and we'll take a look at that for the coming week. One of them will be that Colby website that we used to use in class. Yeah, where you get the pop-up answers.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, ayuda mucho. It really helps a lot. And there are 2 sites on there. Actually, I think I will give you both of those. The one site actually gives you the answers, but it kind of wants you to think about why you got that answer, so it'll give you the reason. And the other one, you choose one or the other, and it'll cue you in on what's the right answer. So you'll get, it's one website, but it's 2 separate web pages, an easy exercise, and one that's a little bit harder because you have to give an answer one way or the other. Okay, está bien. Está bien. ¿Hay preguntas antes de empezar con las películas, sí o no? No, pueden para really freak a lot of people out. But it's good to get familiar with a lot of those and to get a feel for it, and the only way to do that is to see a lot of exercises. So we'll send you with some of those exercises for the week to do a follow-up. Quiero pasar unos minutos hablando del periódico, de la película de El tiempo entre costuras, ¿verdad? El tiempo entre costuras es una película, ¿qué creen ustedes? ¿Es una película de terror, una película romántica, una película de aventuras? ¿Qué es?
Dramático. Dramatic.
Es drama, sí. Es un drama, claro, es un drama. Tiene un poquito de romance, un poquito de aventura. Va a tener más aventura. It's going to have a lot more adventure, sí, dentro de poco. Y eso es. Ok. El segundo episodio empieza en Marruecos. ¿Qué es Marruecos? ¿Qué es Marruecos? Morocco. La palabra en español para Morocco es Marruecos. Marruecos. M-A-R, it's the double R, Marruecos. Ustedes deben saber, you guys should know that for Spaniards, going to Marruecos is a really common kind of vacation for Spaniards to take because it's so easy to hop over Gibraltar across the straits and get into Marruecos. And for them, it's feeling like they are going someplace super exotic because it's not home. And it has
So
that
different.
it has that very Arabic feel, which, they see some architecture like that in their own country, but it is for them a very exotic thing. And a lot of people go to Marruecos if they live in Spain. It's a common place to go. And at that time for Sira, it would have been considered a super exciting thing to do, this turning your new leaf and starting turning that new page on a new life. Yeah, okay. ¿Cómo se siente Sira al llegar a Tánger? Tánger es en la capital, ¿sí? Tangier. ¿Cómo se siente? How does she feel? ¿Cómo se siente Sira al llegar a Tánger?
Emocionado.
¿Está triste? ¿Está qué?
No. Está,
Well, at first,
Perdón,
Yeah.
sí, otra vez, Patricia, otra vez.
I want to say at first. How do I do it?
Sí,
Primero,
al llegar, upon getting there.
she was emocionado.
Emocionada.
Oui.
Ella estaba o está emocionada, estaba, she was, está, she is, está muy emocionada estaba muy emocionada al llegar a Tanger, ¿sí? Porque tenía dinero, tenía joyas, estaba con su novio, ¿sí? Ramiro, el alto, the tall one, ¿sí? El alto con los ojos verdes, ¿verdad? Y estaba muy emocionada, ¿sí? Iban a empezar una empresa. They were going to start a business, ¿verdad? Iban a empezar una empresa, una compañía para máquinas de
Oh,
escribir y escuelas de escribir. Sí, ok. Al principio, at first, ¿qué hicieron en Marruecos? Al principio, at first, ¿qué hicieron? ¿O qué hacen? What are they doing? You could put it in present or in past. ¿Qué hacen en Marruecos? ¿Trabajan mucho?
Uy,
sightseeing.
fiesta.
Oh, vacaciones.
Era como vacaciones, ¿verdad?
Sí.
Ok, entonces,
Se van.
fue
Fiesta.
como días de fiesta, cada día. Ok. Comen en restaurantes muy elegantes. Bailan cada noche. Conocen a mucha gente. They meet a lot of people. Conocen a contactos para los negocios. They meet people for business
Trying to.
contacts. Eso es, sí. Ok. Van a los clubes. Van a los clubes cada noche. Todas las noches, ¿verdad? Ok. Pero poco a poco es little.
A little.
Little by little.
Sí. Poco a poco empiezan a pelearse. Empiezan a luchar, a discutir. ¿Sí? A pelearse. They started to
Fight. Argue. Fight.
empiezan a pelearse poco. ¿Por qué?
Drinking.
¿Por qué? ¿Qué creen ustedes? What do you guys think?
Ramon drank too much. Let's see. Phoebe.
¿Por qué?
Yeah. Ramiro spending el dinero.
¿Cómo se dice? He's spending a lot of.
Mucho dineros.
¿Cómo se dice to spend?
¿Pesar? Pegar.
Gastar.
Oh, gastar.
Gastar. Entonces, ok. Poco a poco, Sierra se da cuenta de que she realizes. Se da cuenta de que Ramiro gasta mucho dinero. Gasta mucho dinero todas las noches. Y ella está muy incómoda, ¿verdad? Está muy incómoda. Que estamos gastando mucho dinero y no me gusta. No estoy muy cómoda. Ok. Y empiezan a pelearse, ¿no? They start to fight. Ok. ¿Qué le dijo el médico a Sira? ¿Qué le dijo el médico? ¿O qué le dice el médico?
Está embarazada.
Él está
Que ella está embarazada. El médico le dice a Sira le dice a Sira que ella está embarazada. ¿Y cómo se siente al oír las noticias?
Should be
Ah,
a little worried. Let's see, preoccupied and
¿está muy emocionada?
a little worried.
Gracias a Dios que voy a tener un bebé.
Oh.
Not quite.
No, no está muy emocionada.
She's preoccupied.
Está preocupada. Está preocupada, claro, está preocupada. No está muy contenta. No está. No sé si tiene ganas de she feels like it. No está muy emocionada. Para Sira es gran problema que está embarazada. Para Sira es gran problema que está embarazada, ¿verdad? No es una ocasión de alegría, joy. No, exactamente, no. Ok. ¿Y qué hizo Ramiro? ¿O qué hace Ramiro? What does Ramiro do? Ok.
Leaves.
¿Cómo se dice?
Adiós.
Sí.
Oh, Saleh, he left.
Primero el
¿Cómo se dice?
borracho.
Sí, oh, exacto, sí, Keith. Estaba muy borracho, muy borracho hablando con el inglés, que se llamaba Peter, ¿sí? Estaba hablando con Peter, muy borracho, toda la noche de otra empresa, some other business, ¿sí?
Business del vacuum.
Sí, de aspiradoras, vacuums. Ok.
Sucked it up.
Estaba borracho y entonces, ¿cómo se dice? He takes off.
Saleh.
¿Cómo se dice?
You're
He
saying-
leaves.
Adiós, amiga.
Adiós, sí, adiós.
Saleh.
Salir.
Salí.
Sale
Adiós.
sale de Tanger, se va.
Okay.
Se va. He goes. If we change that to the past and make it a past, se fue.
Oh,
Se
of
fue.
course. Safe way.
Se fue, and that is the real meaning of se fue. He got the heck out. That's se fue. That is the definition of se fue.
Un ladero,
He took off. Se fue, se va.
Yeah.
Okay.
Robar.
Y el robo. Bueno, Keith. Además, besides, se fue y también, ¿qué tomó? What did he take? ¿Qué tomó?
Todo.
Todo.
dinero.
Todo.
La olla.
El dinero,
La olla.
las joyas, todo. Para comprar otro negocio.
Those business.
Para comprar otro negocio. ¿Sabemos dónde está? ¿Sabemos
No.
dónde está Ramiro o no?
No.
No sabemos exactamente.
Quizá América del Sur.
El policía dice que quizás esté en América del Sur, en la Argentina o Brasil.
Buenos
Pero-
Aires.
Sí, Buenos
No sé.
Aires, quizás, sí, Buenos Aires, pero el policía dice es posible que se vaya a Brasil, pero no sabemos exactamente, ¿verdad? No sabemos exactamente. Ok, ¿y qué pasa con Sira? ¿Qué pasa con Sira después de que se...
Se fue un autobús.
Sí, ella va en un autobús ¿Para qué? ¿Para qué? No sabemos exactamente. Quizás España quiere regresar a su mamá, ¿verdad?
Mhm.
Ella quiere regresar a España a su mamá y toma un autobús y llega al puerto para salir de Marruecos o no.
She couldn't.
Ella se desmayó. She passed out. Se desmayó.
Fell down.
Exacto, se cayó, se desmayó y perdió el bebé. Perdió el bebé. Perdió su embarazo, se acabó. Her pregnancy ended. Literalmente, ¿sí? Estaba muy enferma. No sabemos exactamente por qué, pero estaba muy enferma y perdió, she lost, perdió el bebé. Alguien la llevó al hospital, ¿verdad? Somebody took her there. No sabemos exactamente. Alguien la llevó al hospital, ¿verdad? Ok. Pero, ¿quién vino al hospital después, más tarde? ¿Quién vino? ¿Vino Ramiro al hospital?
No.
No,
Claro que no.
policía.
Alicia. Yeah.
El policía. O dos policías, ¿sí? Dos policías realmente vinieron al hospital y ella está acusada de robar y de no pagar la cuenta en el hotel.
Oh, sí.
¿Recuerdan ustedes lo que dijo Ramiro? Do you remember what Ramiro said to her besides I'm leaving and I'm taking everything? He had a suggestion for her.
She leave town.
To leave.
Leave town.
Quietly.
So she does want to see her mother, but she knows he suggested that she leaves town.
Yeah.
¿Y por qué?
Old money.
That she'd be in trouble.
Okay, on account of, por el dinero que tienen que pagar en el hotel.
Sí.
Okay.
Not paid.
Ramiro no pagó la cuenta del hotel.
Sí.
Entonces, la policía, the police force, pero los dos policías vienen para decirle a Sira que ella tiene que pagar la cuenta.
Right. They want her to pay.
They come to tell her, you've got to pay. O
Okay.
a la cárcel, or off to jail you go.
Cárcel.
¿Verdad? They kind of tell you porque esto es complicado. They tell her, oh, well, we kind of believe this story. So there's a little thing, I don't know if you caught it. Besides the fact that Ramiro did not pay any money at all on the hotel, or probably the nightclubs too, we can probably assume that. He probably has tabs all over town. They also mentioned that somebody signed some kind of a complaint in Spain.
The family.
The family of her biological
Father.
Right.
father.
El hijo de
We can assume that dad is,
Ramos.
yeah. Well, he said they were coming for him.
Yeah.
And by God, smart guy. Yeah, he was pretty matter of fact about it. He wasn't even emotional about that. They're going to off me, and I think that's going to happen.
Take.
Yeah, he was very perceptive. He knows what's going on politically, yes. But, you know, the kids notice all this stuff is missing.
Mhm.
And so they found a complaint. that, they've been swindled.
Sarah.
Yeah, by Sira. And she's like, oh, no, look, I've got, it's notarized. Okay, well, she's lucky the cop believes her, but we still have this issue. So, okay, why is that being swept under the rug? They can kind of sweep up this, you may have bilked dear old daddy of the money. They can sweep this under the rug because the invasion has started.
The Civil War.
They can't really get back to Spain. They can't really well, they could send word back, but who cares because people are bombing each other at this point. And the invasion has begun, and they talk about, perdimos contacto, we lost contact. So communications with the mainland going over to Spain are very, very bad because Franco's troops have moved up from Marruecos, literally, into Spain, and they are invading up the peninsula. So communications are kind of completely cut off, and they're kind of not really looking for petty larceny issues or even big larceny.
That wasn't petty.
Yeah, not even petty. They're not even looking for big larceny because, they're worried about everybody getting bombed and troops moving into various cities and people getting shot. So that's kind of taking, any kind of robbery is taking back burner.
Even the seagulls weren't going across the strait.
That's right.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. So, she's kind of off the hook with that, but she's not off the hook with the hotels. So he sends her somewhere.
Yeah.
We don't really know the nature of where she's been sent yet, do we?
No, but you think the woman that was running the place was on the hook for something.
She's
too.
on the hook for something too. The cop's like, I've got my eyes on you. No funny stuff. She probably runs some businesses on the side.
Mhm.
No sabemos exactamente lo que hace. We don't know exactly what she does. But he's like, well, find some work. She's got money to pay back, right? So
But he emphasizes legally.
legally, yes, he does emphasize. Let's find a legal way to get her earning some money so she can pay this back over
But
time.
can't hear you.
Oh, can you hear me now? See?
I can.
No? Okay. So yes, he does emphasize he wants this done legally. But we know from that comment that probably the lady who runs this house does many, many things, which in fact are not legal at all.
Has over her.
So keep in mind, things are going to be happening because people are probably going to be running money between the mainland and there to fund things going on with both sides with the war. They might be running guns. They might be laundering money. There could very well even be issues of just people sending supplies, food, like not armaments, but food. Because, when you've got things cut off, you're in dire straits for everything from food, even sometimes just getting cash. The banks may not all be able to function. So there's probably all kinds of fun stuff going on with this lady. So I will send you the link for the next episode, and I will send you the next couple links for Destinos, or although that's a little bit easier. Destinos is a little easier to find, right?
The whole list. Yeah.
Yeah, but I will send you the links for all those things anyway. We'll see. Kind of tell me through the week if you want to do some questions or if you want to leave that to the side and just watch them on the side for fun. And maybe ask me questions if there's something that didn't make sense. Does that sound better? You want to just, yeah, ask me questions about the movie if there's something you didn't quite get?
Well, it's a good thing there's the subtitles in English.
Yes.
Yeah, they do talk fast. They do talk fast. But yeah. So, and if you want to totally abandon that and just watch Destinos, that's okay too. But you can come back and ask me any questions about either one of those. And I won't have questions next week. we'll just see if you have questions for me about something that didn't quite make sense or why something was happening.
So just a comment, Marilyn.
Sí,
Morocco was in North Africa.
sí,
North Africa is its own continent. That's
sí.
3 or 4 times the size of Europe as the continent, and you keep replying to Europe as the mainland.
They do. Yeah, they do. Well, you know, and Gibraltar technically is British.
Gibraltar is, yes, correct.
Just Gibraltar, just the rock of
Correct.
Gibraltar is British. And so you got that dipping in there. Now, at this point of the invasion, Spain is starting a civil war, but Franco did move his troops up from Marruecos, and it's not hard because that's like shorter than the English Channel.
Yeah, no, I agree. It was just funny you were saying it's the mainland.
But they
Because
do,
you're right,
yeah, it's the mainland.
In that time frame, the British and the Franco Empire and the Spanish Empire ruled most of Africa anyway. So it was their continent, it was their colonies.
Yeah, yeah, and both the French and the Spaniards had interests in different areas around Morocco and Algeria, those adjacent areas in
Right.
North Africa. And at the start of the war, really, France and England are not anxious to get involved in this civil war at all at these early stages. They may dip their toes in here and there in terms of just intelligence, but who does come to help Franco quite heavily is Germany and Italy.
Oh, I thought
They
Russia.
literally,
Yeah, it was Hitler and Mussolini.
right, Hitler and Mussolini very actively supplied war material, funding to Franco.
See.
And literally did the bombing for him because Spain didn't have an air force at the time. So it was the test tube environment for World War II. Hey, how would aerial bombing really work if we bomb whole cities? And let's test that out. We can do it small scale and not involve our own population. So yeah, sounds like a good idea for those guys. Not so good for people who live there. Yeah, so you know, that will be coming really soon with that part of the but you know, there will be intrigue. So there we go. Bien, okay. ¿Hay más preguntas o no? No? Nada? Okay. We'll end it right there and leave this on for a bit so people can chat as they wish. I'll send you your por and para exercises to practice a little bit. And I'll have some scenarios for you to speak in small groups next week using por and para. But you'll have the prompts there, so you really won't have to guess. You'll be more filling in the blank and talking about situations, and you'll get those prompts, the speaking prompts using por and para, you will get with the with all the links and with all the you know, the recap email that we send along. ¿Está bien?
Yeah.
Bien? Okay. Vale. So in other words, these prompts are going to be things that will force you in small groups to talk using por and para, and I'll basically give you a phrase to start something, and you'll be completing it with things that are pertinent to you or people you know, and getting you used to hearing how we use por and how we use para in these phrases. ¿Está bien?
Está bien.
Magnifico. Okay. And we hope everybody else stays really safe and healthy.
Adios.
Yeah.
Bye.